out of facing him. Want to bring in forensics expert Joseph Scott Morgan, friend of the show, distinguished scholar of applied forensics at Jacksonville State University. So glad you're here. A lot to talk about. So when you are ruled that it is a death by suicide, what are the signs of that? Because there was word that he had some bones broken in his neck, meaning could that also be a suicide, meaning a murder as well, a strangulation?
Yeah, it's possible, Susan. Let's keep in mind the term hyoid keeps coming up, and hyoid is a tiny little bone that exists high up in the neck, generally about an inch above where the Adam's apple sits. Very fragile. You see it most of the time in manual strangulations. You can see it in hangings. The problem is this: he used a bed sheet, and at the greatest height inside of his cell was probably about 5.5 feet that he would have had to have tied off on and then jumped off of in order to facilitate the breaking of this hyoid. And right now, these are unnamed sources that are talking about these broken bones, so we don't know what the autopsy report actually says.
And there's so many facets to this in terms of what he's accused of. Also, thinking, where were the guards? Because allegedly there was an attempt prior to this. So you would think he'd be on suicide watch, if nothing else. Cameras, maybe not inside the cell, but the back and forth of who was watching. And the amount of time that it took for someone to go in and check on him. Could that bone have broken if he was hanging there for a significant period of time?
I think that it would, generally the bone will break upon impact or upon contact, where direct pressure is applied. And you mentioned also another crucial point here. You mentioned time. One of the things that is the data will be greatly skewed is the thing that we do in a medical legal death investigation, and that is post-mortem interval. How long since he last took his last breath until we find him? And now, because the times are so skewed, we didn't have anybody taking watch over him and kind of watching what was going on in there. We don't know how long he had actually been dead. So when you go to measure the body temperature, that's going to be greatly off base.
And his attorneys now want another investigation done in terms of the cause of death. They're not satisfied with this. Will they find anything else, and what should they look for? Would it be bruising if they believe it's strangulation? Would it be other aspects to the way he died, the cause of death?
Yeah, you know, they're going to go over it with a fine-tooth comb. Let's don't forget that Dr. Michael Baden, who's highly respected forensic pathologist, was actually present at the autopsy representing Jeffrey Epstein's estate, and they will go back over all of this data. And another thing that we can't forget, he had allegedly been attacked, or he had attempted suicide back on the 23rd. So this is a multi-layered event.
I wish we had about 15 more minutes, because there's so much to talk about here. And my thoughts, of course, are with the alleged victims, the survivors who say, look, we don't get a chance to come face to face with him because he, as they say, took the easy way out. Joseph Scott Morgan, always love your input. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Some business headlines to get you in the know on this Sunday. Stitch Fix, Rent the Runway, Trunk Club. If you haven't heard of them, they're popular. They're clothing services where you don't have to actually buy the clothes. You can essentially rent them. A new way to buy and wear. Our Maribel Avert tells us about a big department store that wants in too. Hi, Maribel.
Hi, Susan. Macy's is getting into the clothing subscription business. The retailer is working with a startup company to test subscriptions at its Bloomingdale's unit. From there, it hopes to bring a clothing rental service to its Macy's locations in the near future. The chain is also getting into apparel resale, setting up marketplaces at 40 Macy's locations across the U.S. Chick-fil-A is the most beloved fast food chain in the U.S. It came in #1 in a survey measuring consumers' emotional bonds with brands. Marketing agency MBLM surveyed more than 6,000 people for the report, and Chick-fil-A grabbed the top spot with appeal to a broad range of consumers, from both women and men to millennials and baby boomers. Dunkin' was second, Starbucks third, and McDonald's finished fourth. Four Loko looks like it's getting into the hard seltzer market. The malt beverage maker tweeted a picture of a seltzer sour. The can shows that the drink contains 14% alcohol by volume. That's almost 3 times as